Before start this video, please subscribe my channel and click on bell icon. Thanks.
Weddings are generally a happy affair, full of cake, dancing, and oodles of champagne. However, some unlucky royals have had weddings that weren't quite as fun as they had expected. Here are 10 royal weddings that sadly ended in disaster, death, or doom. Related, 10 shocking scandals to rock the royal family. 10 Princess Mary of Teck and Prince Albert Victor. Prince Albert Victor, Duke of Clarence and Avondale, 1864 to 1892. The wedding of Princess Mary of Teck and Prince Albert Victor, the son of the Princess and Prince of Wales, was a wedding many were. The happy couple announced their engagement in December 1891 and had planned their wedding for just 2 months later, on February 27, 1892. However, it seems that this marriage was doomed from the start. Prince Albert fell ill with influenza in January of the new year. By the 14th of January, the prince had passed away, causing the wedding to be called off. It seems, however, that Princess Mary wasn't too heartbroken, however. Just 1 year later, she married her late fiancé's brother, Prince George. The second wedding went off without a hitch, so perhaps all's well that ends well. (1) King Henri of Navarre and Marguerite Valois. St. Bartholomew's Day Massacre. One of the most tragic weddings in royal history is that of King Henri of Navarre and Marguerite Valois. This wedding took place in the Cathedral of Notre Dame in Paris on August 18, 1572. Despite the gorgeous venue and sunny skies that day, however, all did not go to plan. You see, the wedding took place amid a great conflict between the Catholic Church and the Protestant Church. King Henry was a Protestant, which meant that many prominent Protestant figures had made the journey to Paris to see the wedding. A staunch Catholic woman, the mother of the bride, Catherine de Medici, decided this was her chance to take action. Rather than celebrating her daughter's nuptials, she formed a plot to kill the many unsuspecting Protestants who would arrive in Paris for the wedding. Just 6 days after the wedding, while celebrations were still taking place in the streets of Paris, Catherine gave the order, and mercenaries slaughtered somewhere between 3,000 and 70,000 Protestants. In fact, the violence got so out of hand that it spread to French provinces outside of Paris. Eventually, the violence was quelled, and the crown blamed the violence on a political uprising. (2) King George IV and Princess Caroline of Brunswick. The toxic royal marriage of George IV and Caroline of Brunswick. Prince George, later King George IV, and his bride-to-be, Caroline of Brunswick, were betrothed without ever having met in person. And, as you might imagine, this didn't set them up for a day of joy at their wedding. You see, George never wanted to marry Caroline in the first place. He already had a mistress that he was perfectly content with. However, his partying habits meant that he'd racked up a hefty debt that had to be paid off one way or another. When his father suggested the bright idea of marrying someone rich to pay his way out of his troubles, George agreed. Caroline, for her part, wasn't exactly thrilled about the marriage, but she felt that she could make it work. All that changed when she showed up in England for her wedding. At the ceremony in 1795, her new husband-to-be was so drunk that he could barely stand. Worse yet, he wound up passing out on his wedding night, and the unbothered Caroline left him there and went on about her business. It seems the disastrous wedding was just a sign of what was to come, as the two shared a loveless marriage and lived largely separate lives. Three, 7 King Harthacnut English monarchs animated history documentary. Not all royal weddings that ended in disaster were between a king and a queen. One royal wedding that ended in trouble was one attended by King Harthacnut. King Harthacnut ruled Denmark starting in 1035 and took over the throne of England as well in June of 1040. However, the king's good fortune would end shortly after. You see, almost 2 years exactly after his coronation, King Harthacnut attended a wedding of one of his courtiers, the daughter Osgod Klappa. During the wedding, the good king decided to give a toast to the happy couple. However, he never managed to finish his speech and dropped dead in the middle of the toast. Of course, the royal wedding of the courtiers was ruined, and everyone rushed to attend to the king. Although no one knows exactly what caused his death, many suspect it was either an alcoholic-induced stroke or a fit caused by epilepsy or diabetes. 4. 6 Edward II and Isabella of France. Edward II, England's worst king? Documentary King Edward II befell disaster when he chose to marry Isabella of France in 1308. At the time of the wedding, the young king was about 24, while his bride-to-be was half his age. The age difference, however, turned out to be the least of the problems at this wedding. You see, it turns out that the young King Edward wasn't particularly interested in women at all. Instead, he was much more interested in one of his knights, Piers Gaveston. At the royal wedding celebration, the young king kissed Piers in front of all his guests, much to the horror of his new bride. The affair continued well after the wedding day, too, with King Edward continuing a lengthy affair with Piers throughout his marriage to Isabella. Eventually, Isabella had enough, however, and overthrew her husband and installed their son, Edward III, as the king in his place. 5. Prince Albert and Princess Charlene. The truth about Princess Charlene. Prince Albert's relationship. Prince Albert and Charlene Wittsock are a more modern couple whose wedding was doused in disaster. Prince Albert is Grace Kelly's son, while Charlene is a stunning South African swimmer. Despite their good looks and handy connections, however, these two lovers had their fair share of marital woes. Just a few days before the two were set to be wed, Charlene made an attempt to flee to Monaco. Her reasoning was that it had come out that Prince Albert had just become a father to a third illegitimate child. Although she didn't go through with her plan, she tried again later with a one-way ticket to France, although she was intercepted at the airport. Eventually, the couple did get married in 2011. Despite the fact that the princess went through with the wedding, they spent their honeymoon in separate hotels. Still, they've managed to weather the storm and are still together today. 6. For Catherine the Great and Peter III. Catherine the Great, Russia's greatest empress. Catherine the Great may have been excellent at ruling Russia, but her marriage was far from great. In fact, when it comes to her marriage, this poor queen got the short end of the stick. Catherine the Great was set up in a royal wedding to Peter III Fyodorovich, which is how Catherine became a ruler of Russia in the first place. Thanks for watching. Credits to listverse.com. Please subscribe my channel for more videos.